Hi, friends. Welcome once again to the Say Continued podcast. My name is Ryan Robinson. That there is Shanae Howard.
Sup?
Tom is at home sick, presumed dead.
Yeah.
But every week we get together and we talk about video games and shit. And Shanae,
Yes.
how have you been? What are you up to?
I been saving dogs, playing Pokemon Go. A
Wait,
lot of Pokemon
how are you
Go.
saving dogs?
I've been finding them around the apartment complex and helping them get back to their owners.
How so?
This one was a husky. Last time it was a little Yorkie, so I could just hold it and just walking around trying to find the owners or people looking for a missing dog.
So the people that you gave the dogs to, they just said that they were the owners, and then you surrendered the dogs based on their word.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Because those might have not been the actual owners.
Well, the Yorkie owners, I've seen those before, but the girl that whose husky I found, it's a little story. Friend came over, dog ran out.
Sure.
Also, the dog had a collar, and she said the dog's name. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just, trusted that.
Yeah. So Shanae, have you had the chance to play video games at all? Could you take her collar off, by the way?
See, come here. Just a lot of Pokemon Go, and stuff like, and then, really just playing a lot of Pokemon Go. There's been like this new, there's like, for the time being right now, like you get like double candy and a bunch of rewards, and they're doing like a Halloween special thing.
What is candy for again? I forget.
You can evolve Pokemon with it, and you can also power them up.
Okay.
So it's just like a big event going on right now. And then I also they also had it where you can get like a special Pokemon by completing a certain task. And it's just like a lot of stuff to do, and there's been like new raids out and a bunch of stuff. There's actually been a lot of like complaints in the Pokemon Go like community because people are looking for like shinies or like certain like IVs and stats for a particular Pokemon, but all these events are kind of like stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
So like something that's supposed to be special and like supposed to be out there is kind of harder to find.
Right.
But it's like, why have this event if it's not going to be like easily found? Because that's normally how the events go. Is like you can find these things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. A lot of people have been mad about that. I've been doing that. I've just been working on my living Pokédex, and
So a living Pokédex is when you have one of each, right?
Yes,
okay.
And like in your storage thing.
Okay.
So like all the evolutions and stuff like that, and then. It's just been like a lot of stuff to do in like kind of a short amount of time frame.
Yeah.
And then also, since the weather's been nicer, Luna's been really restless.
I feel like fall is the perfect season for Pokemon Go or something like that.
In Texas, yes.
Yeah. I mean, we have fall for a week a year, but that week is pretty great.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it's not balls hot where I'm sweating everything off. So, like, if I, like, in the summertime, I have to moderate how much Luna's outside so she doesn't overheat.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Pokemon Go, like, back in July. And, like, fuck that. Fuck playing Pokemon Go in South Texas in July.
It wasn't fun. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't the best.
Well, it's just that it's hot at night.
Yeah.
And like.
And even walking Luna at night, the pavement's still hot from the daytime, so I could still burn her paw pads.
Yeah.
So it's like I have to find really shaded areas or really grassy areas, and then it's a small time, like 20 to 25 minutes at a time, and then like multiple times. But it's just been so nice, and I've just been going around to different parks all over San Antonio, and I found and one of the things that Pokemon Go, so this thing that I'm talking about, like that's like is like a special kind of side quest thing, special field quests to get this like special Pokemon. It is something different that I haven't seen them do on any of them yet, and one of the things that you have to do is visit 8 Pokestops that you've never visited before.
Right.
And I think that's a really good idea for something that is supposed to be like kind of like to get you out of the house and walking and stuff.
Right.
Because a lot of people just go to the same areas over and over again. So it was kind of like neat. So I've been doing that and going out a lot. I've been thinking about there's like park ambassador programs you can kind of do.
Hmm.
And so I've been doing that, and then I've also been like detrashing a lot.
What's that?
So whenever I take Luna out to like parks or areas that I know that have like garbage on the side, then I just like take a garbage bag, or if I forget to bring one of her little like poop bags, and or obviously I bring her poop bags anyways. Yeah. So and then I'll fill those up with just like cans, things like that. And then I normally will bring 2 with me now, one for recyclables, one for non-recyclables.
Right.
And I've just been, I've just honestly, this week, besides when I came over and was streaming with you guys and stuff like that, I spent a lot of time playing Pokemon and trashing local parks.
Have you been catching Pokemon at my apartment complex?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of Pokemon do I have over here?
Well, that's the thing. They have them kind of more scattered than when when it first started. Like before, it'd be like nests in a lot of areas. So now that there's like so many berry Pokemon, and then but also it's like the Halloween special. So I've just been seeing the same Halloween special stuff I see all around town.
Yeah.
But like one of the quests is like you have to catch 108 with berries, and then just 108 in general, and then yeah. So it's just like a lot of Pokemon catching.
So I remember when I was playing that, I pretty much stayed in the same areas, and sometimes I was dating this girl at the time, and she was all about Pokemon Go for a while. So she had me like going like downtown, and she had me go to the zoo one time. They had some kind of event. I don't know if they still do that.
Yeah, they do. Even my sister lives in St. Louis area, and the St. Louis, and then it has like a little train and trolley that goes around there. And I know last year for Halloween they did like a Pokemon trolley tour, so where it was like the train was even slower than it normally is.
Yeah.
Did a couple stops, and they had like the conductor and a bunch of people were like dressed in Pokemon themed stuff.
Cool.
Also like a lot of like local orchards and stuff around her. Like also did things like that, like Pokemon hay rides and things like that. I know that still happens. I know it isn't as common as it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just been really doing that.
I will say this. I would like to revisit that 2 months in 2016 when Pokemon Go first came out, because that was like such a weird cultural phenomenon. Like Pokemon had always been huge. Like everybody knew what Pokemon was, right? But like when Pokemon Go came out, it was like the weirdest thing, because you'd see people hard parking in the Pizza Hut parking lot and like hanging out like.
People still do that now, and like there's like a Discord for San Antonio. There's a couple of them, but the main one is that we're a part of. They still like when like new raids drop. They're like, oh, we're gonna like this is what we're kind of gonna be at, and then you can like especially when like community days or new raids. That's like the big time that you'll see everybody. And sometimes I'll just pop up Pokemon when like I'm riding in the car with Birdo just to like look around and see what like if where we're going has like Pokestops or whatever.
Yeah.
And I will see people still like going in and then like say we're at a light and like there's like a Sprint store or a Starbucks, like people like go and I see them on their phone and then like leave. I'm like, oh yeah, no, you're totally just doing the Starbucks part like Pokestop.
Yeah.
But I want you should next community day. I'll let you know. And if you're up to it, you should come with us and see, because we go to like Breckenridge Park and walk from there to the Sunken Gardens and back a lot. You should come with us and see all the people Pokemon, because it's like the parking lot fills up fast.
Yeah, I think that people are under the I think because the initial rush has gone away, people are under the impression that Pokemon Go is just that was just like it came and went. But I see ads in my timeline all the time for like, hey, we're doing this new thing with Pokemon Go, and like Pokemon Go still shows up in the news on like major video game outlets, and I still see people who are posting about it.
I also think about because San Antonio is so spread out. I do think that it is a lot easier in the city in particular to not notice it unless you are in the areas that have a lot more Pokestops.
Yeah.
Because if you go to like you don't really go to like Flying Saucer. We'll go get there for beers and whatever, and we see a lot of people just playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
Obviously, me and Berta go to a lot of dog parks and regular parks and stuff and trails.
Yeah.
And I see people doing it there all the time. Like, And then like sometimes I'll like see a gym and there's like a battle going on and I'll just like go check it out. And people are like, "Oh, are you on the same team as me?" And like that still happens.
I'd be like, "Fuck no, don't talk to me."
Well, most of the time they're not.
Right.
And I'm just like, nope.
Yeah, slap their phone out of their hand. You gotta be competitive.
Nerd.
So like,
I think it's just like honestly, I still see it quite often. So it's just I don't know. I think it's just where you go.
yeah. You know how like I don't know if you've seen it, but I think it's Samsung who was selling like either selling the Note 9 or the S9, like advertising it with Fortnite.
I haven't seen that.
Which is funny because like
Go lay down.
as popular as Fortnite is, like you never hear anybody talk about the phone version, which also the phone version of that game is garbage.
Yeah.
So, but so the other night you came over and we were streaming. It was me, you, Tom, our friend Jim, and I think. Wait, was that it?
Yeah.
Were we the only ones here?
Yeah.
I feel like there was more people here. I don't know why.
No, it's because we trickled in. So it was me and you started streaming, and then Tom showed up as a giant ball sack.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy showed up.
Yeah. I don't know why I felt like there was more people here.
Probably because I don't know.
I think it was because we were talking to people on the stream too. But
yeah, we're talking to Sandy and Abs.
So I've been trying to be better about streaming, trying to be better about actively using that Twitch channel because I feel like since we set it up, it had been criminally underused. We were streaming.
We were about to get arrested, so I'm glad that you did.
Well, the internet cops were about to clamp down on us, and it was something that like, we would stream sporadically. Like we would like we'd do it like for like a half hour one week and maybe an hour the next week, but we weren't doing it with any sort of regularity. But we had never established any sort of regular streaming schedule. Like sometimes for like a little while we would do it like immediately after the show for a little bit, but then we kind of stopped doing that. But lately I've been ever since that night, like I've just been wanting to stream, and I've been wanting to do it a lot more often. And I found that I have more fun doing it than I initially did. And I think it's largely because like a lot of times when we would do the stream, while we would typically play some pretty good games, there weren't always games that I was in the mood to play. And
you were never wanting to play 7 Layers of Fear?
It's funny that you say that because I went into that game thinking it was a completely different kind of game than when we started it. Then once we started, I was like, oh, this is the kind of game it is. It's one of those, like I thought it was a survival horror game, but it kind of is, but it's not. Like survival horror in the way that Resident Evil is survival horror, but it's more survival horror in the way that Outlast is survival horror, which is kind of not what I'm really into. Because Outlast is anxiety inducing, like in the worst kind of way.
At least 7 Layers of Fear, you can just laugh at me.
Yeah, well, 7 Layers of Fear had less, like me laughing at you had less to do with the spooks and more to do with
me getting frustrated.
Yeah, and it's so funny to me.
Or me frustrating Tom.
Well, what was funny to me is that you don't even remember the event taking place.
I honestly went back and rewatched it the other day.
It's just funny because that tells me that you had a rage blackout, and that's funny. I mean, it's not funny that you got.
No, I just have a really shitty memory.
Yeah. Well, obviously, because you can't remember how to use a combination lock.
I just sometimes have a really shitty memory.
Yeah.
Especially if drugs.
Sure.
Are involved or alcohol.
Sure. No, we were still sober when we recorded that, so.
Y'all might have been.
Sure. So I've been doing a lot of streaming, right? But I've been using that as an opportunity to play games that I hadn't gotten around to, but I really wanted to play. And I've been kind of dividing my time up. So I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Origins, which, by the way, by far my favorite entry in the franchise. I've always been a sucker for like stuff with like dads. Like dads best friends,
Good boys.
or dogs, and
Oh no, I was gonna say like good boys,
yeah,
like
that's
good
what.
boys trying to help their moms or
Yeah, good.
something.
Yeah, well, that's what because I remember when
And I was trying to get you to play Nino Kuni.
that's why like when someone told me about when you told me about Nino Kuni, I was like it's about a boy helping his mommy.
Yep.
I'm into it. And I think Tom tried to downplay it a little bit. He's like, that's part of what it's about, and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna say it's about a little boy helping his mommy. That's what's gonna motivate me to play it.
Yeah.
Which
you like good kids, good dogs.
yeah, which on one hand is kind of partially what made me glad that I kept my PlayStation Now subscription active, but on the other hand, like I say that, but I never actually went in to play it, and I'm at the point now where because I got PlayStation Now specifically to play God of War 2, so that I could then play God of War 3, and then go into the new God of War. And I know that like I can play the new God of War without having played those games, but I also feel like Kratos, his transformation would have been more significant had I played those games. But like at the same time, like I could have finished God of War 2 15 times over by now. And I just haven't played it, and so I'm just at the point where I was like, is it time for me to just cancel this thing? Because
Yeah.
I've been playing.
It is.
I've been like it's $20 a goddamn month.
Stop it.
Yeah, so I have another month because they just charged me for it. So I have another month. I could probably beat it again before I could probably beat it before my subscription cancels. But I've been playing.
Cancel your subscription.
Yeah.
Play out the month, and if you actually use it this month, then just resubscribe.
I'm not gonna resubscribe. I can't because.
Or then just cancel it, and then you have to force yourself to play it this month. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Fuck it. Cut your losses.
Because I feel like I think it's been active since the new God of War came out, which I think was January. I think it was January, and like, so that's $20 a month, right? So it's been 9 months. So I put almost $200. I paid almost $200 for a PlayStation Now and barely used it. So it's time to cut my losses. But
cancel it. Use it the rest of the month.
Yeah.
Done.
I think that if I spent a day, like if I took one of my days off to just run through God of War 2, then I'll be good. But no, I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Origins. I accidentally happened upon the Final Fantasy 15 crossover content, which was a sword and a shield, and also a camel that looks like a chocobo, which is not as cool as it sounds.
Aww.
It is not. It's actually really gross looking.
It's actually a monstrosity.
It's like if a camel had jaundice and feathers coming out of his butt, that's what that chocobo looks like.
Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
But they don't call it a chocobo. They called it a quay, which is the noise that chocobos make. But I've also been playing a lot of A Hat in Time, which is to call that game cute is an understatement. That game is happiness in video game form. It is the cutest thing I've ever played. I am legitimately happy when I play it.
We'll play it. We'll stream it after we get done with this.
She's so like everything about that game is just I think when I was playing it last night, I was like, this game reminds me a lot of video games that I played on the Sega Saturn and Dreamcast. Because like a lot of the presentation, a lot of the kind of the music, a lot of the like the themes and action in that game just remind me of that time, and I just like feel really nostalgic playing it. And I think a lot of people will take a lot of different things from it. Like Tom said last night that he saw like some heavy Sly Cooper vibes from it, and I think like on the service level you can also take away like a lot of the level setup and the navigation through the environments is very reminiscent to Mario 64. But also at the same time, Mario 64, like the original incarnation, like the actual Nintendo 64 version of that game, also takes me back to when the Nintendo 64 was new and seeing Mario 64 was at the time, the most amazing thing in the world to me. And a part of that is kind of some of that feeling that I got seeing Mario 64 for the first time comes through in this game. But you know, I actually found myself like talking to people about it. Like I was telling my coworker, I was like, I think your son would like this game. His son is like 5, I think. And I was like, I think your son would really enjoy this game, and I think you would enjoy like playing it with him because it's so vibrant and happy and silly and you know, Tom was talking about uh, this adventure game that Sierra released called King's Quest. That he talked about how he when he played it, he was always smiling when he played it, and I get that feeling. Like I'm not always outwardly smiling, but like I feel like that sort of like I just feel like joy and contentment, and I'm just like at ease when I play it, and it just it's so rare, and it's so rare for video games to do that to me these days because I think that a lot of I think when I play video games, I have these kind of expectations that I have a lot of hang-ups where video games are concerned and you know I think about what I want out of a game. Like I'm thinking like I want my $60 worth. I want some good ass trophies. And the multiplayer better not be garbage. And I want some and if you have DLC, it better be worth my fucking time. Like I'm thinking about it like in terms of bars and graphs and like but when I play this game it's just you know I like it's one of those games where like I feel like I can just enjoy it. Like I can just be happy with it. And
Sorry, I forgot that it did remind me. Like, I feel that way when I play Pokemon. Not like necessarily Pokemon Go. I'm not like smiling the entire time.
yeah,
But like the like handheld Pokemons, like the system-based Pokemons.
yeah,
I definitely like feel like that. Berto recently bought Ultra Sun, and I was looking for my Moon version, and I have the case, but I cannot find the game,
right,
which is weird because all the rest of my cases I have the games in them.
yeah.
This is the only one, and I don't know where it is. But I did pick up. But I did earlier in the week play a little bit of Bravely Default,
Mm-hmm.
and I put it before in the show. I was working on a guide for it, and then I gave up on it.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
And it was really interesting, like how much is just ingrained in your mind when you write shit down.
Yeah. You know, I wish that there were more RPGs out there like Pokemon. Not like the catching monsters thing, but like I wish there were more RPGs out there that weren't about you solving this giant world-ending crisis. Because like every Final Fantasy is like it's you and you have this insurmountable obstacle and then you gotta fight this giant thing to save the world. With like you have games like when you have games like Fallout or the Elder Scrolls, like you have to save the world or you have some imminent crisis with Pokemon. It's just about hey look, you wanna be the best at this thing, go out there and you be the best at this thing.
You don't have to be the best. I just was seeing if I could beat gyms with like an all pink team or an all blue team.
Yeah, and if
or
there's
or just like you know what, I'm gonna make myself my own gym leader and have an entire fairy team and go around like trying to fight people. Like
it's like there is no imminent crisis. Like there are antagonists in Pokemon, but there is no imminent crisis. Like they're like on the grand scale, those antagonists are pretty benign and like they're no real threat to anybody.
Giovanni is a mob boss.
Sure, but
even then, like it's not like
but a mob boss in a world like
with no adults,
right?
Or very few adults.
Well, like the mob in the world of a game like Pokemon, I feel is very non-threatening. You know,
not when you've got giant legendary creatures.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I mean, like the thing is. Like I just like catching the Pokemon. I like reading what the little entries say.
Yeah.
I like just like this very stilted dialogue, especially of the first 3. And I haven't tried it on the show, but I mean I recently went to my parents' house and I've been pulling things because they've been doing a yard sale.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of my old Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that, and like Game Boy Color games, and I have my Red, Blue, and Yellow back again. I've been like tempted to play them again.
Have you seen that phone case that turns your fucking phone into a Game Boy?
Turns it into it, or just looks like it?
No, like it's okay. So basically, it's a phone. I think it's only on Android, available for Android phones right now. But like, I'm sure that at some point they'll do an iOS version. But it's a phone case, right? And you put your phone in it, and on the back it has a little slot for Game Boy games. And then like you play the fucking games on your phone.
So like it uses the phone screen kind of as the backlight of like the main screen.
I'll have to show you a video of it, but it's like it. I think it like, and it's really for actually the original Game Boy games and Game Boy Color games. Either way, it's really badass.
Yeah. I don't need it anymore because I have really, but I also found my little light that would go in my original Game Boy
Sure.
to illuminate it because
I don't feel like you'll need that. When I was a kid, I had the magnifying glass that flipped over the screen.
I
And it
had
had the
that
light.
too. I use that for Street Fighter.
The funny thing about that though is that shit was made by Nintendo. Like, so instead of backlighting the goddamn screen,
Oh yeah.
I don't know, because that stuff came out when the Game Gear existed. You know, so like that was your answer to the Game Gear. But then again, like the Game Boy had better battery life. So, but anyway, Shanae, what do you want to talk about today?
So, besides Pokemon Go, I've been watching a lot of TV shows. I talked about the Charming Adventures of Sabrina a lot on the stream.
Mm-hmm.
I've also been watching Magicians, which apparently you didn't like. But I've been noticing because I didn't really watch a lot of TV. I kind of go off and on with like watching television shows,
Right.
except for like a couple like big ones like Game of Thrones, Westworld. Really just those two for sure.
Right.
I also rewatched all of Castlevania,
Mm.
and it just kind of like you start. I mean, everyone else probably knows this, but I've started noticing like reoccurring kind of camera work, angles, and art, cinematography, and also actors,
Right.
music, and stuff like that. And after watching Castlevania, it kind of made me start thinking of what other video games would I want to see turn into a TV series or a movie.
Right.
And who would I want to do it?
Mm.
Yeah, like, and just kind of stuff like that. And I guess like just to get it out of the way, any Atome games just gonna be made by Funimation. They already do it for a lot of other Atome games. A lot of Atome games
Sure.
are also based off animes, so
Sure.
let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
The Sci-Fi Channel, I really like a lot of their shows.
Yeah.
I've talked about Ben Helsing in the past, and I just think they could do a lot. Like they could probably pull off a lot. I know they don't always have the biggest budgets, but I feel like they do a lot with them.
Yeah, so like I think about this, actually pretty frequently, and I think back to when that Need for Speed movie came out a few years back, like kind of right after Breaking Bad ended, like back in 2013, 2014, and like the thing about the Need for Speed movie is that the only reason you know it's a Need for Speed movie is because it's called Need for Speed. Because it could have just been literally any
racing game,
any like that movie.
Split Second.
Yeah, it could have been. Well, I mean, I think Split Second is a little bit more distinctive than that. But like at the same time, like if you didn't come out and say this is a Need for Speed movie, then you would have someone. Oh, she's okay. Then you would have just come out and said, oh, they made a new Fast and Furious movie.
Oh yeah.
When you make a TV or cinematic adaptation, you want distinctive characteristics so that it sets itself apart. So I was thinking about it, and I feel like a lot of people like that Game of Thrones. It's got a lot of violence and sex and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think that, but it's very much like it's not.
Very much what HBO picks up.
Well, it's not high fantasy, right? Like it is fantasy, but it's not like it's not. It's like it's more dark fantasy. And
yeah, I mean.
And so like.
What exactly? I used to know the exact definition. So what's the exact? High fantasy would.
Well, like I define high fantasy by like specific like aesthetic characteristics, and like.
Because I think about it more as like a literary high fantasy or low fantasy. Because like.
I feel like Because
it has dragons,
Lord of the Rings
wizards.
is more high fantasy, and like it's kind of like Lord of the Rings versus, I guess, Game of Thrones. I don't know, but here's where I was going with that. So I feel like an Elder Scrolls show would work because I think that it's got the same level of political intrigue as Game of Thrones, but it's also got more shit going on. not more shit going on like as in like behind the scenes, but it's got like a lot. It's probably going to be more minute to minute action going on, which I think is while I did like the drama and like moment to moment dialogue of Game of Thrones, I also like the fucking high adrenaline, high action shit of Elder Scrolls. Like I would love.
I think D&D, the writers of Game of Thrones could probably do like a really good or a decent Elder Scrolls. I was thinking about that.
I want to see dragons. I want to see Thunes. I want to see some Fushro Da. I want to see and that would be another thing too. Like it could be like following like one specific character, and like maybe it's following the Dragonborn, right? Or it could be and this granted like yes I'm doing
because you're gonna have to do it into the medium of television and the pacing of television.
but like
and I think that really what I personally have found like the difference in as far as like the different providers and TV shows.
mm-hmm.
I think that they could do a decent version of it, but I was thinking about like Fallout, Witcher. I feel like as far as a film format or medium, I feel like it would be or a TV medium. I feel like it would just be really hard to encompass the feeling of what that is because Castlevania, I know via Tom because I don't really play the games, is not accurate to the lore.
Right.
But I do think that like it kind of captures the feeling of what Castlevania should be like as far as like
I do think that
badass action.
There are some compromises that you have to make when adapting something for a larger audience like that. Because like I think that a lot of times, I know, and it's been pointed out before that like stuff like comic book movies or things like that.
I mean, Game of Thrones is very different. Not very. It's pretty different from the books.
Well, you take liberties because like that's kind of how you appeal to the largest audience, right? And like you have stuff in there for like the people who are like diehard fans, but you also have to make it accessible, right? And I think that what would be more interesting than like perhaps it following like the Dragonborn or a specific character. Like, and I'm using Dragonborn, but like it's not just going to be taking place in Skyrim. It's going to be in Cyrodiil. It's going to be in Dark Marsh. In Black Marsh. It's going to be in what is it? In Morrowind. Like it's gonna be in all sorts of places, right? Like it'll be a show or maybe just a miniseries that takes us to all the provinces of that universe. Like we can finally see Hammerfell or High Rock, and like see where because I don't feel like we ever really get to see where a lot of these races and species come from. Like we never go to Black Marsh where the Argonians come from. We never go to High Rock. We never go to Hammerfell where the Red Guards come from, or elsewhere where the Khajiit come from. And it'd be really cool to like maybe have different vignettes of like different episodes where like something different happens. Because I think it would be more interesting for a show to like happen in that world and like have different stories being told as opposed because that's one of the things about those games, right? Is like I think like everybody like they make their own character and they create their own stories.
Well, the thing is, I think Elder Scrolls would be kind of a hard series to do that with, as far as a TV format, just because. Like Game of Thrones, when it's as it's written, is written in the viewpoints of different characters in different parts of the world, but eventually they're going to come together.
Right.
And then with Elder Scrolls, it kind of the format and the universe doesn't really fit like that.
Yeah, I think.
Unless like you make somebody from each race important and kind of come together and maybe meet the Dragonborn.
Well, the problem I think with a lot of Elder Scrolls storytelling is that a lot of the time, whatever like the conflict or crisis that you're facing is usually focused to like a specific place. Like with what happens in Skyrim, the every conflict is isolated to just that place, right? Like it doesn't really affect the entire world. It affects that continent, right?
Yeah. So it's just kind of like I don't know. That's what
which is why I think it would be like.
I think it'd be interesting. I just don't know Like, would it get a second season? Really? Would people
Well,
like?
it might not even need a second season. I think it would be. I think something the Elder Scrolls would be better suited for like a mini series kind of format. Like maybe like a 10 episode miniseries.
Or something like what's the online Mortal Kombat series?
Oh, Legacy.
Yeah, something like that, where it's just like kind of small, where you see the
Yeah,
worlds.
I think that would be cool too.
I think maybe something like with the quality of Legacy, but you
Yeah.
just see the different vignettes of the different worlds.
Yeah, because I think
that would be a really good like add-on.
Yeah, I think it's because I think that a lot of the time, there's like a lot of lore in the Elder Scrolls that I think kind of takes the back seat to kind of like a larger narrative. And like there are certainly people who go out of their way to like kind of piece that stuff together, like by reading books or doing side quests or whatever. But I think that a lot of this, like a lot of uh, uh, origins of like different people in that world are kind of like they kind of left to kind of like speculation and like the only thing like as far as red guards, right? I'm really into Elder Scrolls, so I've read about like different races and I know kind of a lot of their customs and everything. But like a lot of what I know about where these people come from is based on what I've read, right? So I imagine like again with the red guards, like I imagine like by the way that they describe, Hammerfell and 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 by the way that red like traditional dress, it's like a lot of like turbans and cloaks and shit like that, and they use the traditional weapons are like scimitars, and so I imagine it's more like like when I think about it, I imagine the fucking desert from Aladdin, which is like maybe that's not the intended image, that's what you conjure, but that's what I think, right? So it'd be cool to actually see that. And likewise, the Argonians, my favorite race or species in the game, like I would love to see Black Marsh. I'd love to see the Hist tree where they come from.
There's probably a lot of good books out there.
Yeah.
Like as far as that goes, I was thinking, I was thinking specifically for a sci-fi channel. I think Last of Us would be a really good series to do. I think that it is enough. I think they have enough budget that they could, do all the infected and make them look pretty neat. Because there's a lot of really cool things in Van Helsing as far as that goes, and because they have such a low budget, some of the stuff that they have to do, they have to use practical effects.
Yeah.
And I think that just even the way that the game is and the colors and drawings already kind of lends itself to a lot of cinematography in sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be a really good series on there.
Well, based on what I saw, what is that show called? Citizen Z, I think.
I haven't heard of it.
It's a sci-fi zombie apocalypse show, which is it's like got a really like campy charm to it that I enjoy, but I think that it would probably like you should watch an episode or two of that because I think that if you watch that, it'll probably give you a good idea of what a The Last of Us show produced by Sci-Fi would look like. But I think that the cool thing about The Last of Us is that I think that it would I think that it would make a lot of the what's going on in that game, like with like the clickers and all the other mutants in that game. I think it frees up a lot of space for practical effects. I don't imagine there'd be a lot of computer, a lot of CG going on with that. The only thing I don't trust with sci-fi is, and this is just based on shows that I've watched extensively, but the only thing I don't trust about sci-fi is like a lot of the writing that goes into sci-fi shows isn't usually particularly great, and I think that The Last of Us is a uniquely human story that doesn't get told very often. And
that's the thing. I don't think they would. Oh, I tell you, like in my mind, of them doing the show is other people in the universe.
Yeah,
and not Ellie.
Well, and I think that would be a lot more interesting too, because I think that, and again, it's one of those things where like, I think a retelling of Joel and Ellie's story, while intriguing, is not really necessary. I think that like maybe show us some stuff with the Fireflies. Maybe show us some stuff like what it's like to be a fucking like like somebody who got caught up in a bandit caravan and like started traveling with bandits.
Or even like recreate like some of the same areas that Joel and Ellie have been in,
Yeah.
but not have them there.
Yeah, and
or even show like areas that they go to before like the infection, or and so you're like, oh hey, that was in the game. I think that the writers there could do a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, I think also if they went the direction, if they went in the direction of that AMC went with Fear the Walking Dead, which was like very much a preamble to the events of The Walking Dead, where like because I've always found like with shows like that, like the collapse of society is much more interesting than the aftermath, and I think that with a show like they set in that world, it would be really awesome. I think that also they should probably focus mostly on areas where Joel and Ellie aren't, instead of like, because they travel like a set path, right? But we see like they go through different places. And it would be really cool to see what some other areas were like.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't, because like what's California like? What's Washington State like?
What's what's Korea like?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, and that's another thing too, and that's something that actually kind of I thought about with like I speculated with stories like Mad Max, like because Tom and I were talking about it, and we talked about how like there's not a whole lot of reason for us to expect that the rest of the world is like that outside of Australia. Like maybe like shit just got real in Australia, and then just like no one's ever able to leave, and like the rest of the world is still pretty bad, but there might still be society set up.
It's Australia. Are you really spend all the world's resources to help Australia?
Yeah, I guess. But furthermore, with something like Fallout, right? I've always wondered like. So we know, like with Fallout, we know like the course of events that led up to what Fallout is, right? Like shit goes south, and then China attacks Alaska, and then America's decimated after that in the Great War. But like, I'm curious as to what the rest of the world is like. Like, what's it like in Japan? What's it like in England? What's it like in these other places?
I just think it's so high budget,
yeah.
to make something like Fallout, and to make it still feel like Fallout and what it's kind of based off of. I just don't think it would really lend itself well to that medium. Personally, I think at this time, I think like maybe in the future it would maybe that would be different. But I was thinking one of the things I do think would be really cool to see, and I think that probably would be its best in movie format, is BioShock.
Yeah.
I think
definitely. Well, where were you going with it?
Because the thing is, like when you look at people who made BioShock and how they use so much about philosophy, capitalism, fearing communism, socialism, all that stuff, and just really this fear of all this stuff created things, and you have so people already know those things from real life, and then going through the story, and I just think that it would. I don't really think it would make a great TV series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that you would. I think it would be too drawn out, personally. But I think that it would make a great movie. BioShock 1, not BioShock 2. Even though I did like it, I still think it'd make a good movie. And then BioShock 3 being a sequel to the movie and just having the two.
Yeah.
And then having them to be able to be comparative to each other because of the people who made because BioShock 1, the whole city itself, just even have it kind of like Fear the Walking Dead, have it be a preamble before it went to all shit. Talking about how the government and Atlas and stuff don't regulate the plasmoids and stuff. What are they called?
Plasmids.
Plasmids and the atoms. and how like they don't regulate that because they won't want the government out of it. But then also going to
Colombia.
Colombia. Okay, I was like that says. I was like I'll just say that. I was like that doesn't sound right. And how it deals with a lot. It's kind of like deals with like segregation and racism, but also like all these ideals that are there. And especially with the political climate as it is now, I think both of those would be really nice movies comparatively to show each other and still be in like kind of the same universe. But I just don't think I think that they would kind of lose some of their impact if they were put into a TV series and not just like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, I could definitely see the case for that. The interesting thing about BioShock to me, from a narrative standpoint, had always been like the idea of like just like this. So I think that both of them, I think that both Rapture and Columbia were based on some version of the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or even like have them be like kind of like Black Mirror.
Yeah, well, but a
little bit different.
Yeah, with Rapture, it was more of an objectivist ideal, which objectivism is like at all points doomed to fail. Which is as evidenced by what happened in Rapture. But at the same time, that individual pursuit of greatness which is kind of
self-interest,
which was what Rapture was built on, is there's something attractive about that, and watching like the appeal to a BioShock movie or TV show for me would be watching how people try to pursue that, because there was people who.
Because I would love to see Andrew Ryan and Atlas like their view while like Rapture's going to ship.
Well, Andrew Ryan and Atlas that's an interesting relationship, because those two were at odds, and seeing both sides of that would be really cool to see. And I'd like to see because I think that watching Rapture up to the Civil War would be really awesome. But at the same time, I think I would also be more interested in seeing seeing something based on BioShock Infinite, just because ironically, I feel like that one's a little bit more grounded in ideals and ideas and themes that I can better understand. And also that time travel shit's really cool. But I think that a BioShock adaptation would live and die by, one, how that story was told, which as true with most adaptations, but how the plasmids, or if we're doing Infinite, how the Vigors, which are the same thing, how those things are executed, and how are they, because I feel like if they look cheesy, then it's gonna take me out of it. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but it would really take me out of it. But if they were able to do those things well, and if they're able to do the Big Daddies, or if we're doing Infinite, the Mr. Handys, they were able to make those things look intimidating and menacing without making them look cheap and silly. And I wonder how a Big Daddy would, because I don't know. Are we talking is this a live action adaptation that we're thinking of? Is
for BioShock? Yeah, I'm thinking live action.
Okay.
On that front.
Yeah, it would be. I think it would be cool to see because one of the things that I had always been curious about, and they give you a glimpse of it in the first BioShock, but I don't have the full picture, but. I wasn't curious about how Big Daddies are created, and that entire process of them being grafted into the suit, and that whole thing. And there's at one point, spoilers if you haven't played BioShock 1, at one point
you've had some time.
Yeah, I like to be sensitive to spoilers regardless of the amount of time that's passed, because
Because you're still playing.
Yeah. Well,
And so am I. That will come out a long
yeah,
ago.
like uh, yeah, I think there's a part at which you kind of become a big daddy in Bioshock One, or at least you go through part of the process of becoming a big daddy. That's I'm just basing this on a memory, on a 10-year-old memory, but you know, it gives you kind of an idea of like how that works. But I would like to see the process from beginning to finish. Um, and they don't necessarily spell that out. And I've tried reading wikis and all this other shit to kind of see that shit. And I've always liked stuff like that. I've always been intrigued by that because I think that they intentionally made that stuff like vague, and that's kind of what makes me wanna. That really makes me curious about it.
Yeah, I think, and it's similar. If they do it in a similar vein to like Castlevania,
Yeah.
Where it's animated, I think obviously the God of War series would be pretty good.
Yeah.
But the only problem with that is it's gonna be kind of, unless they alter the story, which I don't think would be very good. Like it's gonna be kind of a one for one, like playing the game and then watching the anime as far as that goes, just because it is like a story driven game.
Yeah.
But I guess it's still be like for people who don't necessarily maybe want to people who don't have PlayStation now and want to play God of War 1 through 3.
Yeah.
Like you would get that backstory. And then also a lot of people haven't played like the PSP, like the Ghost of Sparta, Chains of Olympus.
Yeah.
You know, add that story in there to where you can see it. If you're gonna do a live action, like HBO, something like how they did like Troy. No, they didn't do Troy. Yes, they did.
Troy was the movie. They're talking about Rome. Well, there's Rome. Are you talking about Spartacus? Because Spartacus was Showtime.
There was another like Troy based.
Actually, I think I know what you're talking about. Well, yeah, I don't know. I know Rome and I think one other one. But
HBO Showtime, one of those channels. I mean, if they were gonna do a live action one, it's just like really hard to get somebody that can act and also look like Kratos.
I think that
unless you're doing young Kratos, and then it'll be a little bit easier.
I think that the time to do an adaptation of the character that's presented in the first three games I think that's kind of past, because I think it's just the appeal for that guy, in my opinion, the appeal for that character is he's very much kind of a product of his time, I think, and I think that the newer iteration of him is a lot more compelling, because I think that has something that's with more substance to it.
True.
As opposed, because from what I've seen, he's not just a yelly naked guy swinging blades around. You know, and I think
he's an angry dad swinging blades around.
Yeah, well, it seems as if, and not to take away from the work that went into crafting the stories from the previous games, but I just don't think that that character is particularly interesting anymore. Whereas
I mean, he's when you go into some of his backstory and when he was like first being trained as a Spartan and like his childhood, that's kind of interesting. But it's also like I think that's in like I forget if it's Chains of Olympus or Ghost of Sparta that you really start seeing him as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. They kind of all blend together. It's been a long time since I played the first three God of Wars.
And
Ascension.
But I also almost feel like that's kind of one of those things where, because I like it when an adaptation is very characteristically, like you could look at it and just know that that's what this thing is based on. And with God of War, you would have to make, like, firstly, you have to have Kratos in it, right? And it's not, God of War isn't a universe that you could just set an adaptation in and expect people to know what it's supposed to be, because it could just be any Greek mythology thing or any Norse mythology thing. It's only
it's not going to do the new God of War, just the old God of War.
Yeah.
So you can play the new God of War and you can understand what's going on.
But I think that you could definitely do it, but it's God of War is something to me that would be better suited for a movie than any kind of series. I think a movie that that I think a movie or maybe two movies that told the story of the original trilogy, that would be enough. I can't imagine uh, anybody watching God of War series for an extended period of time.
Yeah, and then I was also on the drive here trying to figure out what would lend itself well to Hulu.
Well, why Hulu specifically?
Just because I already have stuff for the other things I watch,
Yeah,
and I was like I do like a lot of the Hulu series, like The Handmaid's Tale. I think
yeah.
that show's great. I like The Haunting of Hill House. I think that was really good. There's also something else that Hulu's done recently that I enjoyed. That's a Hulu original show. Um, yeah. So I was trying to figure out like really what video game series would like kind of lend itself to what they do as far
Yeah.
as their stuff goes, because I do feel like there is an obvious difference to like Netflix original shows and Hulu original shows.
So I haven't watched a lot of Hulu original programming, but what I'm seeing, based on what I know of *Handmaid's Tale* and *The Haunting of Hill House*, it seems that they kind of skew more toward drama,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there definitely could be shows that could be suited for that, but any game that I think of, like it wouldn't you wouldn't immediately know it was that thing. Um, any game that you would base a drama off of, you wouldn't immediately know that was that thing.
I was thinking maybe like the only things that came to mind were like things like LA Noir,
Yeah.
things that are like kind of cop dramas, or just like cop shows. But I mean that could be also a lot of other TV shows.
Right, because I don't think that LA Noir. I don't think that anything, because LA Noir is so grounded in reality that it wouldn't set itself apart from
anything. Yeah.
And again, it's one of those cases where I know it's LA Noir because that's the name of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that there are other shows who I think that there are existing shows that tell a better story than LA Noir's story. But at the same time, I do think a Max Payne uh, uh, Hulu show or Hulu original would be cool. Because I think that he's one of those characters that I don't think people think about that often. He's a character that everybody knows, but
I don't know his backstory. I don't understand him. I just know like when he shows up I just know the movies I will watch them.
Yeah.
And I honestly I don't really care about his backstory because I just care about what's happening at that moment.
Well, his backstory is the thing about Max Payne is that without his backstory, he's kind of that character just he kind of doesn't exist, right? Because and really the first Max Payne is the first Max Payne is like really.
All right, to be fair, the only Max Paynes I've watched are the Thunderdome.
You're talking about Mad Max.
Oh, I am talking about Mad Max. You're right.
And Mad Max didn't start off as a video game.
You're right. I don't know. I had a blank moment there. You're right.
Okay, so with Max Payne,
all those statements about Mad Max, not Max Payne. Max Payne is a series I didn't really get into either.
Well, so the first Max Payne is like, it sets up for why he is the way that he is, but at the same time, like the presentation of that game is just, it's weird in a way that is not particularly great. The gameplay still holds up, but I wouldn't tell that story the way that they told it now. His whole thing is he's a former NYPD cop. He's a former NYPD detective specifically. At some point, his wife and daughter are murdered by junkies, and he goes on. And it's one of they're addicts of a particular drug in the Max Payne world called Valkyr. So the first two Max Payne games, the first Max Payne game is him going on rampage revenge quest to kill the Valkyrie Kingpin, right? The second game is really more about it's really more about him trying to settle back into his life like as a detective and kind of just try to like eke out some sense of normality. But as things go for Max Payne, shit kind of falls apart for him. Um,
I feel like mainly because I'm basing this all off of all the Marvel shows that they've done. I feel like this would fit more better on Netflix, to be honest. And their writing style.
The best version of Max Payne, the best version of that character is ironically when he's at his worst. So which is in Max Payne 3. So in all the Max Payne games, the way that you heal yourself is by taking painkillers, right? So he's been taking painkillers throughout the first two games. So by the third game, he's an addict.
Oh yeah.
Like that's like and that's the first time they actually kind of show some kind of awareness for the fact that he's been taking painkillers like crazy for like the past 10 years.
Hey Max.
So in the third game, he's addicted to painkillers. He's an alcoholic, and his life is just he's a bodyguard for hire, but he's kind of a mess all the time. And the whole game is set in Rio de Janeiro, or I'm sorry, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and it's just it's him like being like a self-deprecating piece of shit, juxtaposed against his desire to protect people, which usually involves like bloody gunfights that happen in slow motion a lot. And as a character, he has the capacity to be very interesting. Um, but then also, I also think that the success or failure of that show would hugely depend on the actor that portrayed Max Payne, which is why the movie adaptation of Max Payne is garbage because Mark Wahlberg was not the right person to portray Max Payne, and I will stand by it. That movie sucks, and they shouldn't have made it. But I think that it would be very possible for them to kind of redo that, get a different actor for that, maybe on like a on a more TV budget, because I think that could be a really good because the Max Payne like the storytelling in Max Payne is very much in a noir format, but they found a way they did a really good job of like modernizing noir storytelling.
Because if you look at things like Jessica Jones and stuff like that, I don't know. I just feel like it would fit better on Netflix than Hulu.
Yeah.
And Netflix, their casting is hit or miss on a lot of stuff. Like the Iron Fist guy should not have been that guy.
I don't know enough about Iron Fist to say.
Just know that it was a bad casting choice.
Okay. Should have canceled Luke Cage. What are you doing?
Yeah, seriously, it was one of the better ones.
Yeah.
On that front, yeah, for sure.
So they're making that. They're doing that Monster Hunter movie. And
I didn't know they were.
Yeah, so
my lips are super chocolate.
a lot of people are really down on it because of the casting and because of Mila Jovovich being in the movie and also her husband who directed those Resident Evil movies. A lot of people are down on it, but I'm like totally all in for that. Like I want that movie to happen. Well, it is happening, but I want to see that movie. And like ever since I heard about that movie, I've been wanting it to happen. And I really think that movie is going to be a fun time. And I think it's going to be. I actually expect it to be better than the Resident Evil movies because those movies were kind of lame.
I think that's also kind of a product of their times, what people kind of wanted to see.
Yeah, because the first Resident Evil movie is early 2000s as hell.
Yeah, I was like just to put it out there, I do think that's kind of the case on that front. I was trying to think of if anybody at this moment in time could do a good Mass Effect movie, and I don't think or TV show, and I don't think so at this time.
I think Max Payne. I think Mass Effect would be a good TV show.
I think it would.
I think Mass Effect would be better suited as a TV show.
Oh, 100%. Just because of how many characters you do actually interact with,
Yeah.
and like the races and stuff like that. It's just like it's hard to do in a movie format to put all that in there.
But I think the one thing that's definitely working, that would definitely work in that show's favor is, as far as I know, there aren't a lot of space shows right now. So.
I don't know. I just like.
That show would be expensive as hell to make, though.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Give it some time because I just don't think. I don't think it'd be good right now, but I do. But I would like to see that series. Another.
They should make a Twisted Metal movie.
I mean, they've already kind of done it.
Death Race is not a Twisted Metal movie. Twisted Metal movie. I want Sweet Tooth. I want Mr. Grimm. I want Thumper. I want who else? Mr. Slam. I want all these guys. I want Axel. I want Hammerhead. I want all those fucking guys. I want Calypso at the end granting a wish to somebody.
I think they'd probably make that an anime movie and put it on Netflix.
Maybe. I just watched the most recent Death Race movie.
Mm-hmm.
That movie's not bad. But you know, I've been wanting a Twisted Metal movie for a while. I know it will never happen. Will likely never happen, but I've been wanting to see that movie for a while.
I don't necessarily think that.
That'd also be really expensive, but it'd be really badass.
I don't think anyone has much interest in it now, but I think like a good Halo series could be pretty good.
Actually, I think, well, I've always found the world of Halo to be interesting, and I've always liked the conflict between the humans and the Covenant, and the larger context of the Flood, and
yeah,
I've always liked that stuff, and
I do too, but I just don't think that it would get. I just don't think anyone would pick it up right now. I think that there's not. I think it would take like another good Destiny push, or like people get interested in Destiny again.
Yeah.
Or them for a Halo series to come.
I think that Halo would be good as long as it wasn't about Master Chief.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah.
It would be and it would be cool to have like an episode or two where like Master Chief shows up, and then then he does something amazing. Then you don't see him, but I think yeah, I think if the Master Chief only showed up once in a while, and it was more about a company of Marines who were just fighting the Covenant, and the interpersonal relationships between them would be really satisfying. But on the other hand, show the Covenant side too, show what's going on there.
I agree with you. Yeah, because I was also trying to think of something that would be good for CW, because I like Arrow in a general sense. I think that there's been a couple seasons that have been very shitty. Yeah. I kind of dropped off of it.
I'm really behind on Arrow.
You guys are, because
I just know that he's in prison now.
You haven't seen Thea in her crop tops all the time, wielding a katana.
Cool.
You haven't been to that part yet, no. And you haven't been to. Felicity and Friends is what ruined Arrow for me, and apparently it's better now, so I should give it another chance. I just can't. I just want to.
Felicity and Friends a show?
That's what Arrow turned into be.
Oh, because it's all about Felicity now?
Yes.
Okay.
They killed off basically Black Canary, so it can become Felicity and Friends. But apparently it's better now. Legends of Tomorrow wasn't bad. I like Supergirl. I like The Flash. But the CW is the CW and has their drama, romance, love triangle things.
Maybe romance is cool and everything, but
I just can't think of any games that are really what CW is looking for and the writers that they have and kind of what they do with their shows. Yeah. I just can't think of any games that really would lend itself to it.
The most romantic game of all time, Dante's Inferno. He went to hell to save his wife.
There's no
after
love
he cheated on her.
Well, I mean, I guess
so. There is a love triangle: him, her, Satan.
Well, they're gonna make Satan a guy in a suit.
Huh?
They're gonna make Satan a guy in a suit.
Well, not for Dante's Inferno.
CW will do that.
Sure.
So.
Why is Satan always a guy in a suit?
Because it's.
And everything, he's a guy in a suit.
Not in the Charming Adventures of Sabrina.
And
he
Devil's Advocate, he's Al Pacino in a suit.
Lucifer, guy in a suit.
Yeah, and Constantine, he's Peter Stormare in a suit with no shoes for some reason.
I think it's because so if budget. So like there's a lot of shows. There's not shows. There are like movies and stuff that like have the devil and have them just look very cheesy.
Yeah.
Because like a horned guy and stuff like that, a goat-headed guy with like blood going down them and all like the red skin. That can be kind of hard to make it fit in with the theme of what everybody else looks like.
Yeah.
And so it can kind of take a lot of people out. Like, and there's just changes like that. But also, but you have to.
Cinnamon, stop pushing the chair, dude, or the table. Man.
Cindy.
Just sitting there
Don't be a jerk.
looking at her vagina all
No,
crazy.
she was looking at her leg.
Oh.
It was probably itchy. But yeah, I just don't. I don't like. I mean, I know there's a lot of games. The formula is go save the princess or the damsel in distress or whomever.
Boring.
Yeah, it's also like.
They should make a Hat in Time cartoon.
Disney would probably do it, or Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I think Nickelodeon would do it. Or actually, that seems more like a Cartoon Network show.
Oh no, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Hat in Time, Cartoon Network. Yeah, I mean, I do like a lot of the content that the CW does put out, but they definitely have like their formula of what they're looking for in that storyline.
Sure.
And also, I don't know. I just think there's like something problematic with everything being damsel in distress.
Sure. That's why I need a Bayonetta show.
Dude, Bayonetta show would be so cool. Netflix would totally do a Bayonetta show.
Yeah. And the cool thing about Netflix is you can show boobs on that sumbitch.
Yeah, you can.
So, I mean, I don't want to see Bayonetta's boobs. I want to see everyone else's boobs.
I want to see everyone's boobs.
I want to see everyone's boobs but Bayonetta's. I do not want to see her boobs. I just want to see everyone else's boobs. 98% of that show, I want to be boobs and bullets. That's it. Shanae.
Yeah.
What are your closing thoughts?
More video game shows.
I
mean, everyone knows comic book stuff is good.
Sure.
More video game shit.
Yeah, I think comic book movies have done a pretty good job of making comic books more accessible to the mainstream audience. And I think video game movies and shows would do a better job. Here's the thing about video game movies though, is that and shows too, is everyone assumes that they will be bad, and everyone forgets how great the first Mortal Kombat movie was. So.
All right. If you want to find us, we are streaming regularly on Twitch now. We have YouTube.
Regular style.
YouTube, browsers, Instagram, Facebook. I'm trying to be better at the Twitters.
And the Pornhub.
And the Pornhubs.
Yeah, we'll all be better about the Pornhub.
Especially Cinnamon.
Yeah, especially Cinnamon.
Bye, guys.